Hey guys and gals, this is Trevor with Investor Carrot. Welcome on into today's weekly Mastermind call, and I'm really excited about today's call, guys. So we're gonna let people trickle in here. Let me flip on the presentation software, show my screen really quick. So those of you who are on here, and I see more people hopping on here, who can see my screen? Can you guys see my screen? Quick yes, and obviously, if someone says yes, you guys can hear me as well. So if some people can shoot some yeses through just to make sure that you can see my screen, make sure you can hear me, that would rock. And awesome. Thanks, Vance, Yolanda, Garvin, Jeff, Matthew. Great seeing you again, Matthew. Talked yesterday, and that was an awesome chat, so I'm looking forward to get things pushing forward with you. Kip, Jeff, thanks, guys. Awesome. So it looks like you guys can hear me, see me. Perfect. So we'll wait for another 60 seconds or so and let some people flow through because there's a person coming in about every 2 to 3 seconds right now, which is cool. And we're going to have a really cool call today. And it's something I've never presented on before, but it was some pretty cool realizations that I had myself in a mastermind that I recently put on about 3 to 4 weeks ago in Florida. And it's something, honestly, I've been working on a lot this year. So this is kind of one of those things that it's, practice as I preach, not as I do kind of thing, because I'm working on it personally myself. And some cool news, we've got a lot of cool news happening here at Carrot, but some cool news in my life I'll share with you guys here shortly, but which is really, really cool. So awesome. Yeah. Thanks, David. And yeah, guys, I'm hosting today's call. I know Aaron is taking on the last few calls while I've been away doing some things that I had to get done. But I've got this call. I've got the next several calls actually myself, which are going to be really exciting. I'm going to be sharing some stuff that has nothing to do with Carrot, actually. And then in about 2 to 3 weeks, there's a call that has everything to do with Carrot and helping you get more leads on our mastermind calls. So if you are new to Carrot, or if this is your first mastermind call, just kind of bring you up to speed here. We have a mastermind call every week, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So it's the same time every week. Register on the same page. We'll send a reminder the morning of. But if you guys can just put it in your calendar if you don't already have it in there for Wednesday, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to have a mastermind call. And these mastermind calls are an added value bonus for active Carrot members. It's something that some Carrot members have told us that they would pay just for these calls and access to me and access to the information here. They'd pay $100 a month just for these calls. And we do record the calls. The last couple with Aaron were not recorded. All the calls that I've been doing are recorded, including this one. And this will be up online on Friday for y'all to see. But let's go ahead and dive in, guys. So it's about 11:06. I've got to cut this call off for sure by about 12:30. I've got a meeting at 1 o'clock in my office. I'm actually working out of my house right now. And guys, and this is kind of the beauty of being an entrepreneur, of controlling your own destiny, that I got to get some work done this morning and got a meeting done. And honestly, I did that work at home, and I'm sitting right now in my kitchen of all places on my kitchen counter, and I'm heading into the office here shortly. You guys have all seen my office. It's a big old huge space, 8,000 square feet, awesome place. But the cool thing is that as an entrepreneur and going into the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, that we can control what we do. We can control how we work. We can control when we work. We can control where we work. And that's one thing that it's really easy to let that get out of our control, to let our lives, to let the way we work get out of control and let it mesh back into the norms of society. And I'm going to go over one huge norm and huge flaw that I see in the way that we all have been taught to work and the way that I'm sure all of us do work. That in my mind is causing us to be less happy, and I'm going to show a way to flip that around, and I'm actually doing it as I speak. I'm showing you how to flip it around to be more happy and more effective in your work. And I know about a month ago in one of the mastermind calls, I shared my effectiveness and losing my words here, but my effectiveness strategy on how I use my whiteboard and how I use different things to really keep me on task and keep the whole team on task, so we're working on the right things. But this right here, guys, is a total flip on how you work, how much you work, and stuff like that. So right now I'm doing this out of my kitchen, and that's one of the beauties of entrepreneurship, is we have the freedom to do that if we choose to cast these societal norms to the side and not care what other people think about how we're working, when we're working, how much we're working, and totally eliminate the thought in our minds that your value and how much you work depends on how, or the value and how much you earn depends on how much you work, because that's totally false. Some of my highest netting activities, profit-wise, are some of the activities I spend the least amount of work on, which is kind of crazy. So, on those activities, if I was to figure out, okay, how much money am I earning per hour that I work, it's probably upwards of $5,000 an hour on some of those really, really high leverage activities. But the problem is, it all evens out because there's low level activities I'm also spending time on that I haven't outsourced yet and I'm still working on. That there's some stuff I'm doing that's probably $12 an hour work, which that's really always going to be part of our journey as entrepreneurs, to figure out that stuff that is stuff we should not be doing and pass it off, systemize it, so we can be spending more time on high value stuff. So let me go ahead and launch the presentation live, and let's get going, guys. And as always, if you have questions, shoot them through the questions panel as we go. And throughout the week, as you guys send strategy related questions to support, our support tags them to me in our project management software, and we didn't have any strategy related questions this week that we did not already answer, so we won't be going over any questions from the week. But if you guys have questions about our software, how to use it, how to get more leads, why your website's not getting leads, strategy, marketing, anything like that, now's the time to do it. And there's some people here on the call, David, Gwen, I'm going to reply back to your email here shortly about the SEO stuff. And we'll get pushed forward with that, so we're all on the up and up. So as I said, guys, as soon as you have a question, write them down, put them in that little fancy questions box there, and I'll answer the questions once we get to the Q&A section. But in this call, we usually go into what's new at Investor Carrot, quick advice for new members, this week's lesson. And then we'll open up Q&A. But what's new at Investor Carrot, guys? We've made a bunch of updates in the past 2 weeks on simplifying certain things in the system. We have a new, more modern look and feel of a design that we're wrapping up. We have one member that has a version of it, and it looks amazing, guys. We're going to be rolling it out here in about a few weeks. And for those of you who want a more modern looking main company type website, something that looks very, very fresh and modern, we've got an amazing design that you guys are going to look at and love. And so we're going to be rolling that out here shortly. You guys can, click of a mouse, move the design over to that once we roll that out. And the Craigslist training, it's a little bit behind schedule. The outsourcer that we passed it off to, I actually had a delay getting stuff to them, and they've had a delay. They had to actually fire an employee, and so we're a little bit behind schedule, but we're still pushing to get that out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, if not sooner, hopefully. As soon as we get that to a point, guys, where it's almost for sale, we're going to open up a pre-sale for active Carrot members, so you guys can get in on the Craigslist training early. You can get in on it for half the price that we'll be offering it likely to the general public, and then we can go from there. So let's just go ahead and dive into this lesson, guys. So about me, if you don't know me, if you're new to Investor Carrot, I'm Trevor Mauch. I'm the founder of this little company that's growing at a good clip, and we have a lot of awesome customers doing a lot of awesome things. And I'm an investor and entrepreneur. My main way that I invest in real estate is buy and hold. Actually, I've got we picked up another property, just closed on it last month with my dad actually, and we had 2 people want to rent the thing yesterday. So we're actively mainly working on the tenants, on the long-term hold and getting tenants. And that's the way that I use Carrot myself, is getting tenants through the internet. But a lot of people use it for cash buyers, motivated sellers, private lenders, rent-to-own tenants, the whole thing. And I've generated a lot of leads online, over 80,000 and growing in the real estate area. And I'm really passionate about this entrepreneurship thing. I'm really passionate about what we can do as entrepreneurs to affect and cause change in our communities. And it was really cool. I had a little meeting with a couple local entrepreneurs here in town, and one of them's a winemaker where we live in Roseburg, Oregon. It's one of the big up and coming wine areas in the country. Sunset Magazine last year said that the Umpqua Valley, which is where I live, is the next Napa Valley. And so wine is a really big thing here. We've got about 30 wineries within 20 minutes of my house, and we're in a small town, a town of 22,000 people, right around there, 25. So I had a really cool chat last night with an entrepreneur who's really leading the charge in the wine scene, really progressive guy. And that's really what I'm passionate about, is just really helping people leverage entrepreneurship in whatever business it is, real estate, wine, whatever, and make positive change. So let's go ahead and dive into this call, guys. Today's call is it's called Banishing the 8-Hour Workday. And before I jump over here, I want to make sure that y'all can see my slides. Okay, so who on here, I just a quick little straw poll, who on here works at least 8 hours a day? Just a quick yes. If you work at least 8 hours a day. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, the yeses are flowing in. If you don't work at least 8 hours a day, put a no in there and let me know how many hours on average you work per day. So far, everything is yes. Of those people who have said yes, I've got some people saying more than 8. And honestly, some days I'm in that camp as well, guys. Some days I'm in that camp where, I'll work a 10 to 12 hour day because I really love what we're doing. But what I'm going to go into today is kind of a paradigm shift that I'm going through currently, because one of the big announcements is my wife and I we're having a baby. That's not new. We found out about that a couple months ago, but we found out 2 days ago that we're having another little girl. So McKinley, our oldest, she's 4, and then we have Colton. She'll be 4 in August. Colton, our little son, will be 2 in August. And this one, McKinley is insanely excited about it because she's been talking about having a girl for months. That's I think if we would not have had a girl, she would be totally heartbroken. But the reason I'm saying that is because we're getting ready to have another kid here in September, and we took on another consulting client. Actually, we're signing that contract now. It's a high level consulting client, so this will make up our third. And I've mentioned this stuff to you guys before on kind of diversifying your income streams and really learning marketing, because once you learn marketing insanely well, guys, the value that you provide to your own business and to the world is 10 times, 100 times what value you can provide and what income you can make if you just are learning real estate strategy and tactics. Okay, so everyone on this call, if I had to give, if there are 3 skills that you had to learn in life and in business that would be the most value to you, becoming like an epic marketer is one of those things, and that's a learned skill. I didn't know what I was doing at all with marketing 7-8 years ago, but it was something I learned over the years. And now, with the skills in marketing, we can grow any company we want to grow. We can grow Investor Care. We can market to find real estate deals. I can get consulting clients on the high end side, charge them a lot of money, and these are big businesses, and I can just give them marketing advice. So this one that we locked up, that we're signing the contract now, it's a $4,500 a month contract, so about $54,000 a year, and I'm only doing maybe 15 to 20% of the work on this. And so with all these things that are happening new, and with a new child, like it's been going through my mind that, I need to be cutting back my work hours, not adding more work hours, okay? Because family is really important to me. And one thing that was a goal of mine last year, so when I sat down and did my goal setting last year, and I taught how to do goal setting in one of our previous Mastermind calls, so go check out the Mastermind call archives if you missed that one. But in my goal setting last year, so for 2013, my theme for the year was to be active and healthy. Okay, it had nothing to do with business. And honestly, last year I did more physical things and hit more physical milestones that I had in the previous 5 years, but still, I really didn't hit that goal of being consistently active and healthy. And I started looking at why I wasn't consistently getting outside, riding my mountain bike as much as I wanted to, or working out. I've had a gym membership. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this. I've had a gym membership at a place half a mile away from the house, and I haven't been there in a year and a half, and I keep paying on that thing. And it's kind of like this mental thing where you keep paying on it mentally, because if you cancel it, then you're giving up on working out. But over the past month or so, I've really kind of figured out for myself why it is I'm not spending time, at least on this one thing, why I'm not being as physical as I should be. It's because this whole 8-hour workday thing. It's because with children now, I've got to get up in the morning, and I usually get up at between 5 and 6, and do a little bit of reading and stuff like that. And then my kids are getting up at 6 to 6:30, get them ready to get out the door with my wife by 7, and then I dive in, get ready for the day, and then I usually start working between 8 and 9:30, and then have some meetings, and honestly waste a lot of time during the day, not getting a lot of stuff done like it should be. But then I do get some really great stuff done as well. And then I leave work around 5:30, go pick up the kids, or head home with where my wife already is with the kids, and then we get to dinner, do the whole put the kids to bed routine, and then that's my time to wind down. So if you look at the average day like that, I'm running two businesses. I have a handful of employees, not too many yet, but we're growing, and 2 kids, one on the way, investment properties, all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you have busier schedules than I do, but there's nowhere in that is really allowing me to pull away and get as physically active and work on some of my hobbies as I want to. And some of those things, when I'm the happiest in my life, it's when I'm doing a lot of these things, being physically active, of course, spending more quality time with family and friends, out there on my mountain bike, riding and getting that adrenaline. That's some of the happiest stuff out there. I really get a charge from doing calls like this, from doing webinars like this, and passing along things that are working for me in my life and business. But if I'm not blocking those times out, then it's not happening. And so I started thinking about that. Why is that not happening? And I've got this theory, and I've learned it from other people, and kind of combined some things just recently in the past months on banishing the 8-hour workday. So I found this little graph, and what my goal with you guys at the end of this is to get as many of you as possible to realize that number of hours worked does not translate directly to happiness and prosperity, and to give a little framework for strategically trimming down your hours and getting more done. Okay, so let me bounce back out of this really quick. Who on here wants to trim down hours and get more done? Yeah, so David, you're reading Tim Ferriss right now. So guys and gals, he talks about some of these things in the 4-Hour Workweek book. So if you've never read this book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and thanks Jeff on the congrats, man. Yeah, so if you've never heard of the 4-Hour Workweek book, go to Amazon or go to your local bookstore and order it. That was one of the first books that really changed my paradigm on how to, at least my thought process on working less but getting more done. And through the years, I mean, things go up, things go down. You get into certain patterns that are really terrible patterns. You get into certain patterns that are great. And life in general, guys, is about trying to break bad patterns and create new habits that are good. And it's a challenge, and we all go through that challenge. I go through phases where sometimes for weeks on end, I feel like I didn't get anything done. Then I get massively focused, and I get a ton done in like a week's period. And it's just something that happens to all of us. But if we can put frameworks around our life and around how we're working and understand how those are affecting our happiness and prosperity, then I think it makes it more easy to adopt those good habits. So I found this graph that says time use on average workday for employed persons 25 to 54 with children. Okay, so that applies to me, of course. I'm 31 right now. If you don't have children, no big deal. If you're out of these age ranges, no big deal. This is just a good little thing. So you can see right here how our work days are broken up. So this doesn't, this isn't including on a weekend. They're talking a work day. So you can see sleeping on average about 7.5 hours, and that's about right what I usually get. I usually like to get 8 hours, but it's been landing right around the 7 to 7.5 hour mark. Leisure and sports 2.5 hours. I honestly think that's a mass overestimation for the average person. I don't think the average person is spending 2.5 hours in sports for sure. So the majority of that 2.5 hours is probably leisure, and I'm assuming the majority of that is probably watching TV, stuff that is not productive and not healthy and not helping us get where we want to go. Maybe some of that's reading, stuff like that. But then the household activities, eating and drinking, caring for others, other activities. The biggest one by far you see here is working and related activities, 8.8 hours on average for U.S. people between those ages with with children. And so if we look at this, like I walked through before, I'm trying to figure out, you're like, okay, we're making money, very prosperous with the income, but if you don't have the time to enjoy it, are you happier because you have more money because you're working more, or is your happiness going down? And how do we go against that? So how did this whole 8-hour work day thing start? Okay, how did it start? So did it start, did someone, has it been in existence since the start of time? Is it just recent? As this picture showed, if you think about the history of time, and let's go all the way back to, let's say, the 1600s or something like that, okay? So that's back before, there were factories, back before there was mass production. A lot of things were made one at a time, with the hand. A blacksmith making a horseshoe by hand, and takes him 15, 20 minutes to make a horseshoe, hangs it up, and that's what he's doing all day, right? So back in those times, people might have worked a lot, but they weren't, there was no such thing as an 8-hour workday. You woke up, got ready, ate your breakfast, hung out with the family, went to do your work to provide for your family. And then when you were done doing that to provide for your family, you went home and do whatever you're going to do. So there was no social constraint saying that working 8 hours is the norm, and going to work between 8 and 9 in the morning is when you go to work, and leaving work between 5 and 6 is when you leave. This all started with the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution, of course, was in the 1700s, I believe. Don't quote me, I'm not a historian here, but it was in the 1700s. And that's when people started to discover that if we put a bunch of people in a building and everyone's doing all these things, that we can create more stuff. Okay, we can create more stuff more quickly. And what do we need to do to create more stuff? We need to get people in on these machines, and the machines help people do it faster, but people need to run these machines. People need to do certain things. And as you see here, there was a lot of child labor, which, I'm not for child labor, but I'm for children learn how to work, hard early on. But there were a lot of great things that came out of the Industrial Revolution that we're benefiting from today, but there's also a lot of things that were not great. And one of those were the long work days. So during the Industrial Revolution, it was not out of the norm for people to be working 10 to 15-hour work days, because they would go to the factory, and the factory owners were like, hey, we need to get as much production as possible out of these days. And to do that, they worked people as long as those people could possibly stand up and work. Okay, then one day in the 1800s, late 1700s, I don't know the exact time, a person named Robert Owen bravely stood up and said, and he created this slogan for creating better work hours, better times. And he said, you know what, this isn't fair, this isn't right. People are getting, basically killing themselves and not having any quality of life. And so let's push for this thing called 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, and 8 hours rest. So that he's the guy who stood out and started this push. 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. So if this sounds familiar to you, this kind of sounds like the way we currently live. And he's the one that came out with this in the early 1800s, maybe 1700s, not exactly positive on it. So this is almost a 200-year-old old thought. So that started the 8-hour work day. Okay, then the 8-hour work day really didn't become what we know of it specifically until Henry Ford instituted the 8-hour workday officially, and then a lot of people started jumping on the bandwagon. And the 8-hour workday from the teens, when Henry Ford put that into practice, had just become norm for society. So when Henry Ford put that in, it was around 1912, 1914, 1915, something like that. So we're talking 100 years later, guys, that we're still working in this kind of archaic 100 to 200-year-old thought process on working. And a lot has changed since then. So it was a great move for the workers at the time, because instituting an 8-hour day decreased the amount of work that they were doing. And then an 8-hour day also made it to where these factories could go, okay, so rather than working one person to the bone 10, 15, 16 hours during the day, now we'll just get 3 shifts 3 shifts of people working 8 hours, and now we can run these factories around the clock 24 hours a day producing a ton of stuff. So that is how the 8 hours came into play. It came into play purely as a century-old norm for running factories the most efficiently. Like I said, 24 divided by 3 is 8. That's where the number 8 came into play. 8-hour workdays is for factories, guys. That's how they were, and that's how it came to be for running factories efficiently. And the problem with that is the current economy is no longer driven by factories in the United States. Okay, we all know this. We're on here because we're entrepreneurs, because we're in the creative class. We're creating solutions around, in this case, real estate. But we're no longer in the factory-driven economy. And you can see right here, you can see the whole timeline. During the mid-1800s, the U.S. was massive on the working. You know, by working we mean factory, blacksmith, stuff like that. Service industry wasn't up there very far. You know, the farming and fishing, forestry, that's gone down almost every year since the early 1800s. The creative class, there wasn't a whole lot of that going on in the 1800s, but it's been growing the last 50 years. And now the service industry and the creative class are going up, while working manual labor is going down, and farming, fishing, and forestry is staying way down at the bottom. So there has to be some sort of change in the way that we're working, but there hasn't been. There's still the 8-hour workday, the 40-hour work week, and our pay is based off of that. If someone asks you, you know, how much did you work this week, and you say 60 hours, immediately they base that on a 40-hour work week and go, man, you're working a lot. Or if you say, you know, I only work 20 hours a week, they go, oh, you're not hardly working at all. Man, that's awesome, because they're basing that off of this archaic 40-hour work week based off of the 8-hour work day. So there was a study done by Harvard, and I guess before we go on, guys, are y'all following me here? Is this good stuff so far? Kind of at least starting to open up your mind to different ways of thinking and why we do this crazy stuff that we do. I want to get some comments on here that if this is resonating with you so far, then I'm going to give you a formula and a law that actually is going to help us get out of this archaic 8-hour workday. Okay, awesome, guys, cool. So there was a study done in Harvard called, it was this work happiness study. And there's some cool things in there, and I found this study, and I took this little graph out of there, and it's kind of a confusing graph, but they were studying Americans versus Europeans, okay? And by Europeans, I mean like any country over there in Europe, not just one specific one. And as we all know, if you've ever been to Europe, just, you know, kind of raise your hand or nod back there behind the cute computer if you've ever been to Europe and ever experienced this. You know, just give a quick yes. And if you've ever been to Europe, you'll see that things are a little bit different over there. It's a kind of a bummer because some things are starting to become more Americanized. So some of them are starting to adopt, you know, our stupid, crazy work habits. But you go over there, and it's Europe is really lifestyle based. Okay, you go to a cafe, and you're not forced to sit inside and facing each other. A lot of the times the cafes, you're sitting outside and watching people walk by, and a lot of the times the chairs are facing the street, so you can see people, not be closed off, and you can still talk to the person next to you and things like that. You know, in certain countries, France is included, and you know, Spain and a lot of countries, they take these breaks during the middle of the day, and they're extended breaks. You know, they shut businesses down during the middle of the day for these breaks. You go over to France and have dinner. I remember my wife went over there just after college for a couple of weeks with her family. I wasn't able to make it on that one, but they just went out to this restaurant, you know, just for a dinner, and it wasn't, you know, it's just a norm. The dinner took 4 hours, but that's just the way it is because it's highly social. It's not like over here in the U.S. where you get in, get out. They're like shuffling people through. So it's this whole different lifestyle thing over there. Over here in the U.S., it's different. It's about production. It's about getting more done. It's about success, this thing that we all call success. And in this study, they were showing, okay, how important are each of these things to Americans, to Europeans? Okay, so leisure and work, obviously, are very important for Europeans. Okay, so they see working as a way to, of course, have more leisure. They work to live, not live to work. And they really don't see success, you know, the traditional thought of success as this driving force behind why they work. They work so they can live a great life, not be quote unquote successful in general. And they see work as important, but not crazy important. They see lifestyle and family and things like that as the most important. You go up to the U.S., and leisure and work is less important as a standardized value. So once again, it's us Americans, we love leisure, but for some reason there's this status with working more, and it's kind of funny if you just as an example of this. Okay, I'm working out of my house right now, right? I'm working out of my house right now, and because I have the flexibility to work less, I'm usually the one who would take the kids to the doctor's appointments for checkups and stuff. If my wife is working during those days, she works 3 days a week, and actually she's going to be leaving work entirely sometime in May, so she can focus more on family and some things that she's passionate about. But I would be going to the doctor's office with my kids at 2 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and the doctor. He assumed, I think, that because I had this flexibility in time, because it's different, that I didn't work, okay? And he assumed that my wife was the breadwinner, which is awesome. I have no problems with that. But the average person sees that as a negative for a male anyway. If you're a male and you're not working, or if you're a male and you're a stay-at-home, or at least it perceives that you're that way, there's this little weakness thing in society that's on there for some reason. That's not the case over in Europe. So long story short, Americans really work because they want to be successful, and they see they say if we work more, then that means more success. So here's this little thing in here. It says that leisure work and work important variables have higher values in Europe, which suggests that work is more important for Europeans. This is surprising given the conventional wisdom that Americans work more than Europeans because they value work more. One explanation is that Americans value more the outcome of work, success, while Europeans are more concerned with the process of work itself. So the success variable suggests that for Americans, hard work is perceived to be associated with success more than Europeans. Okay, Europeans in general love the craft, love the action of their work, and they don't really look at success the way that we do, which is kind of weird. So I think this is part of the reason why we have not really moved out of this 8-hour workday thing, because work is almost a status. Like you hop on the phone with someone, and how many people on here, give a quick yes or raise your hand behind the computer screen, how many people on here within the first 10 seconds of talking with a work colleague or someone, you say, you staying busy, or with someone, how many, I'll raise my hand because I find myself falling into that trap, because like, you staying busy, of course they want to say yes. If they say no, then it seems like then it's this bad thing, right? And being busy really is not a great thing. Being successful and happy is. And here's another quick thing. So Americans work more than anyone, according to this. Here's a headline on this article: Americans work more than anyone in the industrialized world. On the flip side of that, I looked up the Happy Planet Index, and there's this index that I don't know who makes it, but based off of all these things, they rank the countries, the top 150 countries or whatever it is, based on the happiness index. And the United States is nowhere in the top 100, guys. I mean, you can see the top 19 here. Costa Rica is the happiest, Vietnam, Colombia, Belize, El Salvador, Jamaica, Panama, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Guatemala, Bangladesh, Cuba, Honduras, and Indonesia, Israel, Pakistan. Pakistan, guys, Pakistan is higher on the happiness index than America. Argentina, Albania, Chile. I mean, there's something going on here, guys. So I think I've come up with this theory that there's definitely something going on here, that while we have all these social norms that are causing us to think that working more and being busy is a great thing, is it really contributing to our happiness? And in the end, guys, real estate doesn't mean crap, in the end. The reason we're diving into real estate is because we think that it can provide us a better life and make us happier. Right? So if that's not why you're in real estate, then you should probably take a second look at why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you're not structuring your real estate business in the way that you work to be happier, and I think prosperity and success is something that could potentially help you be happier, whatever those words mean to you, then you need to relook at it. But right now, as a whole, us Americans are not very happy, but we work more than anyone. So Here's this is probably about 2 years ago. I saw this little documentary on the Discovery Channel or something like that, and it's pretty interesting. It had nothing to do with work or anything, but it was showing this tribe that this is the first time in history that this tribe had ever been exposed to video cameras. Like it's the first time in history that this tribe had ever been documented. And this tribe was deep in the Amazon, and they, of course, lived on their own. They got their own food. There was no stores. There was no money. There's no sense of any of this kind of stuff that we perceive as being normal, right? And my first initial gut reaction, because these people were, sitting on dirt and living in these little tiny huts and stuff like that, and there were like 15 of them in a hut. Your first initial reaction is, man, they're poor. They're poor. They must not be that happy. But the further along in this documentary I got, those people smiled more than you see the average American smiling. These people are crazy happy. These people are fit, they're in shape because they're always working out. They only work when they need to, and their work is actually providing for their family and staying busy and being creative, creating clothes or ceremonial things or going out there and hunting and honing those skills. Guys, so they only work as much as they need to sustain and be happy. They don't have this false societal constraint that they have to work for 8 hours a day to be perceived as successful or normal. They were just doing stuff based on what made them happy, and they lived insanely happy and fulfilled lives. You could tell it through this documentary because there were no societal constraints telling that what they were doing was not successful. They were highly successful in life. And it's not really our nature to slave away for 30% or more of our lives. So why do we do this? Enter this law called Parkinson's law. So who on here has read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek? I'm just kind of curious. Just let me know, guys, because there's like a billion yeses on here from some of my other questions. So let me know if you've heard 4-Hour Workweek. Just put, yes, read it, something like that. If you have not read, okay, awesome, guys. Yeah, if you've not read 4-Hour Workweek, like I said, go get it. It's okay. So there's a bunch of people who have, a bunch of people who have not. So Kirby, go grab it. Nunzio, go grab it. A lot of people said yes. But it's called the 4-Hour Workweek, and this is where I first heard of this law called the Parkinson's law. And it's by this guy named Cyril. I'm attempting to pronounce his name, Cyril Parkinson. He wrote in 1955 in an issue of The Economist, buried deep in one of his articles, was this phrase. It said, "Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion." Okay, so let me see that again. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So if we mentally and societally have this 8-hour construct, right, that our parents, that society, that our bosses, that everyone, like you work 8 hours or 40 hours a week. That's just the norm, right? If we have this norm that we go to work for 8 hours, then we're mentally blocking off 8 hours to get done our to-do list, right? And by this law, it says work expands to fill up the time available for its completion. So in other words, if you give yourself 9 to 5 to work on a set of tasks, and so if you're doing your to-do list and you have these things to do, it will take you 8 hours or more to get that work done. Okay? So it's going to take you every bit of that time, guys, that you give yourself during the day to get done whatever you line out to get it done. Okay? On the flip side of that, you can use Parkinson's law to your advantage. I'm going to show you how here. So the first thing that we need to be doing, guys, is ask, you need to question why you work the certain times during the day that you do. So I'm just curious, who on here is self-employed completely? And okay, yeah, Robert hasn't read 4-Hour Workweek. Go ahead and get it, man. And Matthew's reading it. Matthew's halfway through. Says I almost made him quit his job, so I had to stop reading it. Awesome. Well, it did make me quit the job that I had created for myself back when I read it, because I structured my business when I first started. It wasn't very fun at all. Okay, so we've got some people who are totally self-employed, who manage your own time. Okay, cool. Who on here? Awesome, guys. Kirby, Nunzio, Tony, totally 100% self-sufficient. So I'm sure there's people on here who have jobs, who have a boss or someone who's saying, okay, who dictates the time that you work. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different for you guys who do have a job and you've got to go clock in and you're expected to work certain hours. I don't want to get you fired, okay? So take this and put it in your brain bank as something to strive for and something to work for in the next year or two. But in your current state, if you have a job, awesome. Keep working that job. Work your real estate stuff on the side to get your income high enough to quit the job so you can fully control your own time. But the first thing you need to do is question why you work the certain times of the day that you do. And even if you do have a job, guys, you can still, if you're creative enough and if you show enough value to your employer, you can still find some ways to have your time be flexible. Okay, so some of my team members, like Aaron, who's done some of our calls, he actually doesn't live in the same city as me, but he comes down here to the office every now and then. We get work done, but we work virtually. He lives here in Oregon. But Aaron can totally manage his own time. Like I could care less, guys, how many hours he works. I could care less when he works. I don't care if he works at 2 in the morning or during the day. There's certain times during the day that, of course, he has to be available for certain things. But I could really care less when he works. And that's because all I care about is the output. Like, what is the output? What's the value that Aaron is pushing out there? And is that value matching up to, is he bringing more value than what it's costing me to pay him, right? So you need to figure out why you're working the certain times during the day that you do. If you manage your own schedule, what makes you mentally pick 8 hours? What makes you mentally pick 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever those times are? And kind of think about that a little bit. What was it something that, because that's a societal norm? Are those hours picked because that's really when your customers need you? Like, figure out why it is that you've mentally picked those times. For me, honestly, when I started to think about this, like I said, my usual time is about 8:30 or 9 o'clock to 5, between 5 and 6. So that's a little bit more than 8 hours right there every single day. And I started to think about this. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. My company, I don't need to be there at 9 o'clock. I don't need to be there all day. I need to be there at certain times, but I can structure my business and can structure things so they're, things are outsourced or automated more, so I don't have to be there at certain times. I don't need to be there 8 hours, that's for sure. I can get all my work done in 4 hours if I really set it up right. And if I got rid of and delegated the rest of the stuff that was taking me a lot of time but wasn't high value. So for me, the answer to that was, like, there was no reason why I was mentally picking 8 hours. It was just mental construct by the Industrial Revolution, taught to us through everything. So once you've done that second, pick a different number of hours. Okay, ideally fewer. The thought with this exercise is to be working less but getting more done, not working more. So pick a different number of hours now, ideally fewer, that you'd rather work during the day, and or pick a different time to work. So if you don't need to work from 9 to 5, but you'd rather really work from 10 to 6 or 10 to 5 or 11 to 5, pick those different hours, and kind of base that around this next slide that I'm going to show you. And then once you've picked those number of hours, start working that many hours for 2 days a week. It's going to be really hard to totally flip over and to do that 5 days a week. Okay, so this is the first exercise, and this is what I did. I picked mine going, okay, let's cut it down to 6 hours. I know that I'm wasting at least 2 hours a day where it's not in my highly productive flow state. So I'm sure I can easily cut out 2 hours and still get the same amount done and give myself 2 bonus hours every single day. So for me, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, okay, I'm only going to work 6 hours for these 2 days during the week, and I'm still going to fit in the same amount of stuff, but now it makes me really prioritize what I need to focus on because I have a little bit less time. That's step 2. Step 3, and this is the key that I think a lot of people are missing. This is the key, guys, that if we reverse all the way back to the start of this call, this is the key that I had always been missing last year, the year before. Even when I tried to work less, I couldn't do it. It's the weirdest thing. I couldn't work less. And this is why, because I didn't have the specific things planned and set up to go that I would actually be doing and spending those extra hours on. Okay, so I just, by default, I just sat there and did more work. And this is the key. So in my mind, guys, you have to have things that you are going to fill that time with that are more enjoyable for you, okay, that are more fulfilling, that help you be happier in life. And that's what this extra time should be. It should be happy time. And it's pretty cool. In my mastermind, so I've got a mastermind. There's about a dozen of us. We get together 2 times a year, just in different parts of the country. And this last one was about 3 weeks ago in St. Petersburg, Florida. We had a spot there on the beach, and there were about a dozen of us. And it's pretty interesting because there was people, from all different age ranges, different types of businesses. People earning 6 figures, 7 figures, even 8 figures. People who work a ton, people who don't work much, people who are near the retirement age, people who just got their career started a few years ago but are highly successful. And it was pretty cool kind of seeing the cross section of stuff and seeing who you could tell was insanely happy, right? Because you can tell the people who are making a ton of money and they're really proud about the numbers they're bringing in, but they're not really happy. And I've been through those phases myself. And you can tell the people who you don't care how much money they're making, because you can tell that they're insanely happy and they are just living life, right? And there were at least 2 guys in that group, and I've known them for years, but there was at least 2 guys in that group who were in that phase, who are working less now than ever. And the funny thing is, one guy is 29 years old, young guy, and one guy is in his 60s, so 2 totally opposite ends of the spectrum. So they're working less than ever. The 29-year-old, I've known him since 2008. Really creative guy, really smart guy. He used to be working 10 to 15-hour days, and now he works literally 3-hour days. So he's worked his work schedule down to 3-hour days because of Parkinson's law, because he's realized, okay, and he wasn't able to do this overnight. It took him a year and a half to work it down to that. But he said, okay, what do I want to do to be happy in life? Because I know that tomorrow I could fall dead. I could get in a car crash. I could do whatever. Tomorrow I might not be here. So why am I working 8 hours today? Why don't I enjoy life today and every day, and then work and whittle my work day down so I'm making enough money plus some, so I can provide for my family, so I can have fun, so I can still put money away, so I can still live the lifestyle I want to live and not worry about it, and not try to make $20 million a month. Okay, because that's not contributing to happiness any more than making $30,000 a month or $10,000 a month. So for him, 3 hours is his workday. So he gets up early. He doesn't get up early. I'm sorry. He gets up at 10 o'clock now, and he was actually late to our first day of the mastermind because we started at 8:30. He's like, man, I haven't woken up at 8:30 in a year. So he usually wakes up about 10, starts working between 10 and 11, and then he's done by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then sometimes he does his work in the middle of the night. So he might be working at 11 o'clock, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and then he sleeps in. Then he has the entire afternoon to go kiteboarding, to go skateboarding, to do whatever he does, hang out on the beach, play volleyball. And that's honestly his life right now, guys. And he brings in about $40,000 a month. But he's paying his team about $20,000 of that a month to do most of the work. So he sees the value of investing in teams so he can work less. On the flip side, the other guy has had a career where he has been the guy, working 70-hour weeks. He's been the guy who brings in a ton of money and sees the amount of money coming in, the amount of time he's working as a badge of honor. I think we've all been through that, and some of us are still in that during times. But now, just by default, the past year and a half, he decided to go build a house. His house, and he's like, I'm just gonna help. I'm gonna frame this wall myself, so I don't have to pay someone to do it. Even though he makes really good money, he has a business that does 7 figures a year, and he was in the phase where he was working too much and was really burnt out and was not enjoying life like he should. So that 1 or 2 days of framing a house turned into, well, I'm not going to go to the office this week. It turned into, man, I haven't been in the office in a month. It turned into his team calling him and him not answering the phone, and his team figuring out how to actually get stuff done because he wasn't available. It turned into him not going to the office for 6 months. It turned into him working maybe 40 hours in a year. And he said that year was the most profitable year that he's ever had in his business. And he said it was the happiest year he's had as an entrepreneur. And he worked a lot. He worked the least amount he's ever worked. Now, it's going to take some time to get there. It's going to take some time to get there. And the key for him, guys, is he was not able to do that until he had this third element. Okay, so he knew he wanted to work less, but he didn't know what he was going to fill his time with. And until he decided to build his house, that was his thing that he was filling his time with. And then he spent more time with his wife and things like that once he realized he didn't need to work 8 to 10 to 12-hour days. So find the things, guys, that you can fill your time with that help you be more effective, that help you be more happy, more active, more fulfilled. Okay, and then trim your work days down and just get more done in those work days. So what can you do with that extra time? Spend more time with family, more time for your hobbies. So for me, I'm going to start. I'm starting with working 6-hour days for two or 3 days a week. And I'm going to whittle it down to where I'm not working on Fridays at all. Right now, I only work half-day Fridays anyway, but I'm going to work it to where I'm not working Fridays at all. So then it's going to be 6-hour work days, 4 days a week. And Fridays are going to be, physical activity, family time. And those other 2 hours that I'm gaining during the rest of the week is going to be me working out, me picking up the kids earlier and hanging out earlier so we're not hectic when we get home making dinner, stuff like that. Riding my bike more. Reading great books, volunteer at charity, doing stuff you're passionate about, working on your big idea. This is one of my theories that everyone should be working on a big idea at all times. So even if you're just now getting your real estate business started, and maybe you start to get traction, think about what it is that you really, really want to do in life, and it's this big, huge thing, and spend an hour or two a week on that, on your big idea. Okay, because if you don't spend an hour or two a week on your big idea, you're never going to do it. No one's going to do it for you. More creative time away from the weeds, and that's what my friend, the guy in his 60s, said. He said, you know what? After this past year and a half of really not working at all, and my business being more profitable than it's ever been, because my team had to figure stuff out because they couldn't use me as a crutch on all this stuff, I really realized that 80% of the time that I spent in my career working as much as I worked, I was in the weeds. He said I was in the weeds. I could not see out of the weeds because I was doing all this detail work that I thought was important at the time, but wasn't. But once I started limiting the amount of time I was thinking about working, so Parkinson's law coming into effect, guys. Once I started limiting the amount of time I was working, the important stuff magically popped out to me, and that's the stuff that I did. And all the stuff that was the weeds work, I stopped doing, and either my team just picked it up or we realized it wasn't important and we stopped doing it altogether. So write this down, or nod to the computer or whatever on, number one, get out of the weeds. Okay, so write that down on a 9x5 postcard or whatever they're called, 6x5, 4x5. Put it on your wall, put it by your computer, get out of the weeds. So you see that all the time. So you'll know, and you'll self-identify that you're in the weeds, that you're working in the weeds. And none of us like that. It's not fun. It's a drain on your energy, drain on the happiness. And we need to be getting out of the weeds and trim our time down. And like I said, guys, one of the best ways to get out of the weeds is to force yourself to get out of the weeds by limiting the amount of time you're working. Like I said, Parkinson's law, the amount of time you allot for something, your activity will fill that entire time. Okay, so limit it to 6 hours to start, something like that, and then work your way down to 3 hours a day if you want to, like Ryan, mentoring, stuff like that. So guys, really, this is about living your life, living your life on your own terms. And like I said, even if you have a job where they're dictating your work hours, get really creative and provide a ton of value to that workplace so they can't lose you. Okay, that's one of the biggest things, and I think they talk about this in the 4-hour work week, where he says, and he gives a specific thought process in the 4-hour work week on how to get your boss to let you work virtually, to let you work from anywhere. And he gives specific emails on what to say. But one of the things in there is you have to provide so much darn value to your boss in your workplace that they cannot lose you. That when you go to them and say, hey, you know what, I've been doing all this great stuff, and you can obviously see how much value I've provided the company. What do you think about me working from home 1 day a week? Okay, they're probably initially going to not want to do it, but if they see how much value you're producing and you promise them that you'll still produce that much value or more working from home 1 day a week, then do it. And then what you do when you get home is you put Parkinson's law into effect. Okay, so you trim that 1 day a week down to 4 hours. And then you get all of your work done for that day in 4 hours. Now you have 4 extra hours, guys, during the week to do what you want to do. So you just earned yourself 4 free bonus hours during the week because of Parkinson's law if you have a job. If you don't have a job, just do what I've walked through here and really realize why you've picked an 8 or 9 or 10 or 12-hour workday, and then limit yourself. Let's just, as a test, pick two days during the week and say, okay, I'm only working 6 hours during these days. Here's when I'm going to go into work, and my hard and fast deadline of getting out is this time, and you have to stick to it. You have to mentally know that you're getting in at 10 o'clock and leaving at 5, okay? You have to mentally know that, or whatever it is, 10 o'clock and leaving at 4 or something like that, okay? And that way, then you schedule something, okay? Then you schedule something right around that. So then you have to leave at that certain time, and that something, it should be something that is enjoyable. It should be something that you're getting out there and being active, hanging out with friends, going to a lunch with a friend, going on a bike ride, writing your book or whatever it is. So does anyone have questions on this stuff or kind of aha moments that you saw during this little law about banishing the 8-hour workday? So I'd be really curious, guys, to hear from everyone that, okay, thumbs up, yes, I am going to apply this, or you know what, I'm not sure that this is going to work for me. I'd be really, really curious. Shoot me some comments through the questions panel right now on this, because I'd love to kind of open up the discussion a little bit and hear some feedback from people on this. And heck, if someone wants to come on and actually talk, I can unmute you and you can say something. But I'm going through certain comments here. Kip says my wife dictates my work activities. Well, shoot, so you need to go to your wife and find out why she thinks you need to work certain hours and certain days, or certain times or whatever, and see if there's a better solution for that. Because once again, the people who are dictating our times, guys, so if we have bosses or if we have someone who's kind of dictating the time that we work, we need to go to them and help them make this transformation that the 8-hour workday is archaic. It does not make sense in the service and creative economies. Okay, so unless you're working at a factory, unless you're working at a place actually building something, and you're working on an assembly line, you do not need to be working 8 hours. Okay, if you're in the creative class, if you're in real estate, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a real estate investor, if you're an internet marketer, if you're a whatever, unless you're needing to keep a storefront open between certain hours and you don't have anyone to work that for you, then you need to figure this out. So, yeah, Kirby. Kirby says, I've retired 3 times and still working, building up my real estate company. Cool. Kirby says, I don't work an 8-hour schedule. I work at home so I can work when I want to. And Kirby, that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you can work from home. You can work at the coffee shop. You can work at the office if you want to. The one thing that we all need to look out for is entrepreneurship. We all become entrepreneurs because of the freedom and the lure of success. That's why we become entrepreneurs, because we want to control our own destiny. But the flip side of it is so many people, and myself included, I'm saying this from experience, so many people get sucked into entrepreneurship, and it's the very thing that traps you and decreases your freedom. Which that sounds so funny. Like if you ever saw that in a sales letter for a product saying becoming an entrepreneur or becoming an investor could actually decrease your freedom, of course no one would buy that thing. No one would buy that course. But what happens is so many of us get caught up in the weeds. Like I said, working in the weeds. So many of us get caught up in the weeds. We don't delegate. We don't systemize things. And then our work that we just created, our business we just created, controls us. Okay, it controls us, and it makes it to where now we have less freedom as an entrepreneur than we would if we had a job. And you never want to get in that position. And I've gotten myself out of that position the last couple of years. I was in a position where I felt that I could not be away from work. And even when I was on vacation with family, we went on a lot of vacations. My mind was totally at work, and I was not free. I did not have freedom. And there were times during those phases where, we're making a lot of money, and I was happy. I'm not going to say I wasn't happy, but I was making a lot of money. Was happy, just not as fulfilled as I could be. And I was thinking, it'd be nice to just get a job and work for this company because this company seems really cool. And then immediately I thought how I got knocked, my senses got knocked back into me. I'm like, yeah, that's not a good idea. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur because I can control my own destiny. I just need to I just need to be smarter with it and actually structure my business, my life, and my workday around that. Yeah, David says being busy is another form of laziness. Can't remember who said it, but 80% of your success comes from 20% of your efforts. And yeah, that's the whole Pareto's principle. It's the 80-20 rule, where 20% of our activities yield 80% of our wealth, 80% of our whatever. And we can say that with anything. 80% or 20% of our leads as a real estate investor yield 80% of our profits, or 20% of our clients as a consulting company yield 80% of our profits. Or flip it the other way, 20% of our clients take up 80% of our time. So those 20% of clients that take up 80% of your time, you need to get rid of them. Okay? But yeah, the 80-20 principle is awesome, and it totally plays in with this. So once you pick how many hours you're going to work during a day and trim that down, like I said, maybe start at 6 or start at 5 and do it 2 or 3 days a week. Once you pick that, then you go over to the 80-20 principle and go, okay, what are the 20% of things that will yield 80%, the biggest 80% of results that I can work on today? Or what is the single most important thing that by doing it, this is called the focusing question. I talked about this in a previous mastermind call. What is the one thing that by doing this one thing today or this week or this month, if we're talking about what you're going to do today, you're going to ask that question today. What's the one thing that by doing this thing today will make everything else easier and more profitable? And you should ask that question every single morning or every night before you write your to-do list for that night, and every week and every month. Okay, so that's the whole 80-20 thing. You're picking the one thing that's going to produce the best results for you and get out of the weeds. Yeah, John says filling the day is so true. And like I said, man, guys, I'm not preaching from the pulpit here because I'm in this with you guys. Of course, I've figured some things out that have been working great for me to produce revenue, and we bring in a good amount of money, especially for my age. But at the same time, there's a lot of times where I'm caught up in the same stuff that every entrepreneur is caught up in, working too much and getting meaning and fulfillment in your business and why you're doing stuff. And I'm just going to be teaching this stuff to you as I find stuff that is working for me and as I make realizations in my own life and business. So these mastermind calls, guys, are not things where it's just going to be tactics all the time. A lot of it's going to be helping you through the process of entrepreneurship and being happy in life. And that's really the true value in Carrot, because we care about entrepreneurs. We happen to be selling software and selling education products with the software. But if you're not being happier and more fulfilled with the revenue you're generating, then it doesn't mean anything to us. Okay? I don't want people to be unhappy and unfulfilled, but making a lot, high incomes as a result of Carrot. I want people to be happy and fulfilled. And if you find that real estate does not do that for you, then leave real estate. Find something that makes you happy and fulfilled. Yeah, so John says filling the day is so true. Rick says, I'm going to be more cognizant of the need for a break every couple of hours. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, Rick, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, so during our work days, we definitely need to be taking breaks, because there's a whole nother principle. This is a whole nother call, but there's a whole nother principle that basically says that your mind can only focus on something for a certain amount of time before it basically starts to go to sleep. It's like a kid. It's like the kid in us, right? You see a kid in kindergarten, and that kid can only sit still for about 30 seconds. But then the kid has to go find something to do mentally, like they're looking for that next thing. And we're the same way. And so during our days, so Rick, even more than just taking breaks, I still think you really need to go, okay, I need to restrict the time that I'm working today, not just breaks. I need to go, okay, I'm only working 9 to 1 o'clock today, or 9 to 3 o'clock today. Okay, and then in that period, then yes, you still need to take breaks during that period. Even a 10-minute break, get up, run around the house, run around the office, go take your garbage out if you work at the house, go grab a snack, whatever it is. A 10-minute break works wonders. But we still need to be limiting our time during that day. Otherwise, you're going to be taking breaks throughout the day, but you're still going to be working 12 hours that day. You're just going to be working 12 hours with 5 breaks, and that's no fun. So do breaks, but then also limit the time you're working that day and totally cut off work at that 6-hour mark or at that 3-hour mark or whatever it is. David, yes, is working on it, but have trouble hiring the right people to outsource stuff to. Any thoughts on getting over the hump? Man, it's definitely a struggle. Maybe someday we'll do an outsource training once we get the trainings that we're already working on done. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts on getting the right stuff outsourced too. So I guess, David, if you could let me know, what are certain things that are taking up a lot of your time that's like in the weeds work that you're having a tough time outsourcing? So let me know those things, and we'll dive into some ways that you can get that done. Kirby, if I get tired, I go take a nap and wake up refreshed and more productive. I'm a master of the 1-hour nap. I love it. And I've got friends who do that as well, take a nap in the middle of the day, and they love it. Cool. DeAndre, I'll answer that question here in a bit. We're just delayed on a couple things, man. I just need to get the thing done. Yeah, Robert, great little quote here, man. So Robert Levinson says, stomping on ants instead of shooting at elephants. Exactly. Okay, so Rick says, but how do you not let the one thing occupy your whole day to the detriment of other work that, if left undone, will make you not look good? That's a great question, Rick, because that's something that's obviously gone through my mind as well, and that's going to go through everyone's mind. It's like, what is that one thing? And I'm going to give you guys a suggestion here. For those of you who are readers, I read at least one book a month. Sometimes it's 2 books a month, and I've got a book club actually. So if anyone wants to join that book club, you can go here, and I'm going to answer your question here in a second, Rick. So go to my personal blog, and that is a Carrot website. So I just send it through y'all to the chat thing. Go to my personal blog that is run on Carrot. So I do live, eat, and breathe, and use Carrot. And then there should be a little link somewhere that says book club or whatever. And the lead page you click and go see that same thing. That is a Carrot lead page. Go join my book club. Okay, and you guys can let's go there. You guys can join the book club. I've got about 70 or some odd people in the book club. It's free, so you don't have to pay anything for it. And this lead page is a Investor Carrot lead page as well. So same thing, guys. I'm using Investor Carrot a lot. This thing is converting really, really well for me. So go join it right here, and then you can get on my book club list. And what we'll do is every month I send you an email with the book that I'm reading, and then we actually hop on a call for whoever wants to be involved. We hop on a call at the end of the month and discuss how we can apply certain parts of it in our life and business. But one of the books that we read recently, Rick, is a book called The One Thing, and it's by Gary Keller. And Gary Keller is the Keller from Keller Williams, obviously a huge real estate brokerage. And you can get this book on Amazon. It looks like paperback book for $8.89, hardcover for $14, and it's well worth the read. Okay, the way that I read, guys, is I don't get caught up in the details. I read pretty quick because I just scan paragraphs, and if I find something in the first sentence or last sentence that was interesting, then I read the whole paragraph. So I can read through stuff pretty quick. But once I find one or two big things I need to implement from the book, I stop reading. That's just the way that because if I have too many things to implement, I implement nothing. So I stop reading stuff once I have this big thing that I need to implement, and then I might come back to the book later. So that's one of these books. I read about 50 pages in, and I haven't read the rest because I got a lot out of those first 50 pages. I need to implement that stuff, and I have. But in this book, Rick, he really explains in detail the one thing. And and the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results, and how in his business he had all these things that he felt that he needed to do. Okay, he had all these things that he felt that if I don't do this, I'll look bad. If this doesn't get done, no one's going to do it. This has to be done. This has to be done. This client, I have to work with this client because they're paying me money. All this stuff. And what he found was he worked with a mentor, and a mentor basically posed that question to him. He said, "Okay, Gary, you're struggling right now. You're trying to break and make this a national brand, but you're just a regional brand right now, and you're working too much. You're working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. You're not happy. Your life with your wife right now is terrible because you're working so much and so much a focus on the business." And he asked Gary why that was. And basically Gary said, because I've got all these things to do. We're trying to expand, here. We're trying to do this and do that. And I've got I can't work less because I've got to make this happen. And then the guy said, basically, he said, "Gary, what is the one thing that if you were to do that one thing with your business, if you were to do that one thing, what would be that one thing that would catapult this business to a national level?" And Gary told him that one thing because Gary knew what that was. But all these other things, the in the weeds work, let me mute that real quick. All these other things, that in the weeds work, was stopping him from focusing on that one most important thing. So Rick, my answer here is to your question, how do you not let the one thing occupy your whole day to the detriment of other work that, if left undone, will make you not look good? I want to reverse that question to you. Okay, what if you let all of the other stuff, all of the in the weeds work, get in the way of your one thing, so you're not getting your one thing done? And that's what most of us are doing. Okay, so most of us are going at it with that mindset of, I've got all this stuff that I got to do. If I don't do it, I'll look bad. So you do all that stuff, and then the one thing, the thing that's actually the most important to your prosperity, your income, your life, your amount of hours you work, we're not getting that done because we're letting all this other work happen because we think that other stuff is important. So what we need to do is sit down, Rick, and write down all those things that are things that feel like they're important, that if you don't do them, you won't look good. Okay, write all those down. And then you need to write your one thing for this year. Okay, what is the one thing, if you accomplish just this one thing this year, that would get you toward your goals? Okay, and work that backwards. What is the one thing this month that will help me reach that big goal? That if I reach that big goal, if I get that one big thing done this next year, I'll be happy. Okay, and then work your way backwards, like I said. So that's your big goal. That's your one thing for the year. If I only got this accomplished this year, I would be happy. And then go, okay, what's the one thing this month I need to do to hit that big goal for this year? And then work it backwards. What's the one thing this week I need to do to get that thing done for that one thing for this month to lead toward that one big thing for this year? And then work it back to the day. And that one thing each day, guys, is the first thing you should do. You should not be doing any other in the weeds work until that one thing is done. And then if a bunch of in the weeds work is stopping you from doing what's important, then you need to take that list that you wrote of all this in the weeds work that you feel that is important, but is if left undone will make you not look good. But that's the very stuff that's stopping you from getting the important stuff done. Write those down, and next to each one of them, write down, okay, is this truly critical? Yes or no? Is that truly critical to your business being prosperous and happy? The answer to a lot of them are probably going to be no. We all think that they are. Okay, putting together this proposal for this new potential client, is that truly critical? The answer to that might seem like it's yes initially because it's new revenue. But if that client is not your ideal client, if that client is not going to be your best possible client, and if getting that new client is not going to help you achieve that one thing at the end of the year, that one most important thing, you should not be doing that proposal for that client. You should be doing the thing today that actually leads toward your one big thing. So I think for most of us, we have all these things that we really perceive as important that aren't important at all. And if we actually do leave them undone, they won't make us look as bad as we thought, and they might not make us look bad at all. And so it's just a matter of eliminating those things that really aren't as important as we thought they were, or finding someone else to do them. So David, if you can shoot through, if you haven't already, um, let's see. Yeah, so David, if you haven't already, shoot through those things that you're having trouble hiring the right person to outsource to. I'll give you some ideas. Um, okay, so Rick. Yeah, man. So, yeah, Rick, awesome, man. I'm glad you think it was helpful. But yeah, that's guys, that's the journey and the effort, or the journey and the the trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur that we all have to go through. That we need to learn that. So think going back to the Aboriginals, the natives in the Amazon, right? So if they aren't doing anything extra in their lives that does not lead to them sustaining life and to them being happy, okay? I'm sure they might do some random stuff, but they're not sitting there and creating these false tasks. They're going out there, and if they're hungry, and everyone else in the thing is hungry, they know that they need to hunt. They go hunt, they bring it back, it's there, they eat, they take a break, okay? And then they go hunt again when they need it. They might store some up during the tough times so it's there. They spend time with family because that's what makes them happy. And all these other things, like weaving that 455th basket that they don't need, weaving that 455th basket just isn't that important. They weave that 455th basket if that helps them go and contribute to the one thing for them, which I'm sure is happiness in life. Okay. So that we need to relay that same thing to us. It's like, quit weaving those extra baskets if they're not really contributing to your happiness in life, um, and really look at each thing we're doing every day and going, okay, do I really need to do that, or could I just call the person up and say, you know what, it's been great working with you, but honestly, I don't think it's a fit moving forward. Here's a referral to another person who can help you get done what you want to get done, and then focus on your one thing. Yes, there's gonna be some tough decisions to make, that we need to cut out some stuff. Okay, a lot of people. I've got this picture on the wall right when you walk into the loft, right at the top of the stairs, and it's this big mural, and basically it's a ton of words, right? And let me find it actually. What is it called? Where is it called? One second here. It's this manifesto. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm going to find it here. I'm sure it's on this. Yeah. So this one right here, it's called the Holstein Manifesto. And it's just this company. I mean, they make clothing. And they created this manifesto for the way they want to live their life and run their business. And I did a mastermind call. This was probably a month and a half ago, on how to create your own manifesto, basically. How to surround yourself with the right words, so you're seeing these words every day that really inspire you and keep you on the right track. And this manifesto, I walk by it every single day, and I always catch glimpses out of it. And this is a great one. You guys can buy this from this company. If you just Google Holstein Manifesto, you can buy it and put it on your wall. We actually got permission from them to take the graphic and make it our own, and then put it onto a huge canvas. So we made it a canvas print in our office, a big, huge one. But this says, "This is your life. Do what you love and do it often. If you don't like something, change it. If you don't like your job, quit. If you don't have enough time, stop watching TV. If you're looking for the love of your life, stop. They will be waiting for you when you stop doing things. They'll be waiting for you when you start doing things you love. Stop overanalyzing. Life is simple. All emotions are beautiful. Even when all emotions are beautiful. When you eat, appreciate every last bite. Open your mind, arms, and heart to new things and people. We're united in our differences. Ask the next person you see what their passion is, and share your inspiring dream with them. Travel often. Getting lost will help you find yourself. Some opportunities only come once. Seize them. Life is about the people you meet and the things you create with them. So go out and start creating. Life is short. Live your dream and share your passion." Like, that's something that I walk by every single day. But one of the things in here that a lot of people comment on, and this is part of the whole cutting out stuff that doesn't matter, is this one right here. If you don't have enough time, stop watching TV. There's so many people who complain about not having enough time to do something, not having enough focus to do something, whatever, and then they get home and they flip on the TV for 2 hours, or they do this other thing that doesn't matter. They play video games for 3 hours or an hour. You start adding that stuff up, and we're talking, if you're watching TV for 2 hours a day, then that's 10 hours during the work week. We're talking, 14 hours a week. We're talking 40, like almost 60 hours a month. You're watching TV, so that's several full days. Um, and then you want to take it out to a year. I mean, let's use the calculator here. This is just as an example to really find the stuff that doesn't matter in life that is filling our time. So 60 hours a month, if we're watching 2 hours of TV a day only, or you can equate TV with whatever time-wasting thing, even if it is leisure to you, watch a half an hour of TV and then use the other 90 minutes to do something productive. So 60 times 12, 720 hours. If you're spending just 2 hours a day wasting the time watching TV, doing whatever, that's 720 hours. I'm going to divide that by 24. This is 30 full days during the year. You're losing an entire month of your life spending just 2 hours a day wasting time. So for people who say that they don't have the time to do something, and I know no one on here said that, but I just kind of went off on this tangent. You can find the time. You can find an extra 2 hours to cut out of the day of stuff that you're doing that is just a waste of time. And like I said, that 2 hours a day, it might not seem like much, but it turns into a full month of your life every single year that is wasted. And then if we look at that further, let's say you live, for another, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say that you live to be 85, and you start this calculation when you're 60. So let's say 60 years of your life you've spent like that. So 30 days. We'll just do 1 month times 60. So 60 months, obviously, divided by 12. So if you spend just 2 hours a day wasting time watching TV or doing whatever it is that isn't helping you move forward toward that big thing that year, that big thing that week, that big thing in your life, then you're wasting 5 full years of your life not doing things that contribute toward your happiness. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, Rick, the compound effect. Yeah, he goes through that whole exercise as well, and that's huge. That's huge. So, David, going back to your outsourcing thing, and I'll take a couple questions here, guys. Open Q&A on anything, and then I got to head to the office for a meeting. But so David says, I really need to hire an operations manager to take over the execution of the necessary day-to-day tasks. Then I need to get a sales manager in place to build out the team to close more deals. So I guess first of all, David, what are the tasks that you see an operations manager taking over? And who is currently doing those tasks? I'm assuming you, but let me know what those tasks are, the day-to-day tasks that you see an operations manager taking over and executing that I'm assuming that you're currently doing. Okay, so printing out and sending letters to seller leads, is that out? Is that it? Because kind of what I'm getting at here is whenever I think that I need to hire someone else, usually it's fewer things than I anticipated, and usually if I actually got a little bit more focused, and like I mentioned there, and I stopped wasting time during the day. Sometimes I'm able to just get it done myself until a lot more revenue comes in to where I can really hire someone great for it. But for really low level stuff, like printing and sending out letters to seller leads, you definitely don't need to be doing that yourself. Have another service do that, man. I mean, there's a company called Yellow Letters Complete. I can send you guys our affiliate link if you want to. Because Daddy needs a new pair of shoes for a new kid coming in September. Just kidding. But I'll send you guys our affiliate link to Yellow Letters Complete, and that's the best place that I've found for printing and sending out letters to seller leads. Highly effective. that's going to outsource it all for you. So then that's done. Returning calls to set up appointments. There's services out there, guys, that do this for you. So kind of where I'm going with this, David, is unless you have a huge volume of this stuff, it's probably going to be cheaper and more cost effective and easier for you because you're not managing an employee. It'll probably be cheaper and more cost effective for you to find services that do this for you until you reach a volume, if you're not already there, until you reach a volume of leads and calls, that then you need to hire a person in office, someone to do that. But printing, sending out letters, that can be outsourced. There's a lot of great services that do that. Returning calls to set up appointments. There's services here in Oregon even. There's a service here that I guess question here, David. So on those calls, so you're saying returning calls, are they leaving voicemails? Like, are sellers calling in and leaving voicemails? And how many calls are you getting per day? And how many letters, like how many times are you sending out letters per week? Okay. Okay, so they are going to voicemail. And then how many calls are you having to return per day? And how many times are you doing sends of letters per week? Okay, so 1 to 2 times a week for mailers of 100 or so. Okay, so yeah, with that, I mean, man, that's what I would do. I would find a fulfillment company who can do that all for you. And there's some ones out there that make them look insanely personal and real. They make them look handwritten. Some of them will actually even do them handwritten for you. And it might cost you a little bit more than printing them out yourself and mailing them, but you've got to figure in your time. And it's probably going to be cheaper than hiring someone and having them stuff them themselves. So that's my suggestion there. And then 15 to 20 calls per day. Okay, that's awesome. So if you're getting 15 to 20 calls a day, you're rocking it. So that's a good volume of calls. So with that, you might test a couple things. So number one, you might test sending the calls to a call service. And there's a really great call service here in Oregon that it sounds like the person's in your office. I mean, they're great. They're very cost affordable. I heard about them actually through an Investor Carrot member out of Florida who's tried all kinds of services. He tried PAT Live, which specializes in real estate. He tried all kinds of them. And he said this service is the best. They have the best support. They sound the best on the phone. They help you the best. And you can give them your entire call qualification sheet on the phone. Okay? Or you can even have them ask a couple questions. And you can filter out the leads from there. So you can have them transfer you live if you wanted to. You can have them transfer you live the best leads, the ones that answered these 2 questions right. Do you really need to sell your house fast? Yes, okay. And then send them on to you or whatever. Or you can have them do the entire lead intake, and then you can filter down so you're only calling back the people who are the most motivated. That's one answer to it. Another answer to it is there's all kinds of people. Go to Craigslist and post a Craigslist ad. I probably wouldn't try to outsource returning calls, from overseas in the Philippines or whatever. You could totally do it, but the person has to speak perfect English to bring that credibility out. But you can totally find someone on Craigslist who's in your town who you can meet with and train and give them a script and have them call back the ones that seem the least qualified with their voicemails. And you call back the ones that seem like they're the most qualified, or have them call back everyone. There's a lot of options for you. But basically, with the call thing, you can find someone local on Craigslist. But I think your biggest issue is the filtering before people leave a message. I'd be curious to hear what the voicemail box says when people leave a message. Because if you're getting 15 to 20 calls per day, I'm not sure if that's calls or voicemails. But if you're getting 15 voicemails a day, you're probably getting 20 to 25 calls a day. Because not everyone's going to leave a voicemail. And sometimes some of the most motivated sellers may not leave a voicemail. They want to talk to someone on the phone right then and solve their problem. So I honestly would have someone pick up that phone live, have them pick up the phone live, and then go through your qualification stuff, have them talk as if they're you, and go through the qualification sheet, and then either live transfer you, the most motivated and qualified people, or say, okay, you know what, David on our acquisitions team, or David, our CEO, is going to call you back today, and then have them send you just the most qualified ones, and then you can outsource to someone on Craigslist to call back the rest of them. Yeah, so David, I'll get you the info for the Oregon-based phone service, and it's the funny thing is it's more affordable than the other ones that I've looked at. I think it was like $200 a month, and you get, I don't remember how many minutes it is. I think it's $200 a month for 200 minutes, or maybe 100 minutes or whatever. I'll look, and that's minutes on the phone. So that, you know, your call service on the phone with your people, very, very affordable, crazy worth it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess those right there, man. I wouldn't hire an operations manager for those types of things. You don't need it. You just need to better outsource the fulfillment of the letters, and then find a better way to screen the calls. So you're calling back just the ones that are the most motivated, and then you have someone else like on Craigslist or someone in your family that wants to earn a couple bucks calling back the others. That's honestly what I would do. There's a couple more questions in here. Let's see, DeAndre. Let's see. Pretty new to Investor Carrot and still working on my SEO. But while doing that, is there any recommendation on a way I can start generating sellers leads until I get my rank up? Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. Do you have the 3 lead per day training? If you have the 3 lead per day training, what you'll want to do is, and guys and gals, the people who have the most success with online marketing and for seller leads, for any kind of leads, and with Carrot, tend to have the 3 lead per day training. So DeAndre, if you're working on the SEO, awesome. You know, go through the 3 lead per day training stuff, mainly magic keywords and SEO control. And then as far as things you can do, something that is working well for people. Some people in certain markets, it's not working quite as well. It really depends on the competition and the click costs in those markets. But pay-per-click is working great for some people in some markets. We're doing it for other people in different markets and not seeing as great of results. But then there's some people in some markets who are just crushing it, and they're getting leads through pay-per-click, driving directly to the home page of their Carrot site. A newer member, Guillermo in Houston, actually really experienced investor, a real estate agent down there as well, does a lot of deals. He joined Carrot about a month and a half to 2 months ago. We're doing the SEO for him. He's in our Content Pro package, and so he's investing, almost $600 a month with us and getting great results with those 2 upgrades. And he's doing his own pay-per-click, just driving people to the homepage of his seller site. And he's already done a deal within his first month and a half of Carrot from pay-per-click. So that's one great thing if you're in a market that is not crazy. And if you want feedback on that, I mean, we have an entire training, like I said, on the pay-per-click side of things. So it'll go through the whole thing on how to do all this. Or hit me up and we can kind of guide you in the right direction. Another way I know that a lot of people are having success with is direct mail. So if you have a budget, if you've got a really good budget, and it doesn't have to be huge. So David's sending out, 1 to 2 mailings a week with about 100 mailers or so. And you can get good letters with envelopes, looks like they're handwritten and stuff like that, out for about $1 a piece, using certain services that we're intimately aware with and we've used. So we're talking $100 to $200 a week. That a lot of times that will include postage. That might be up to $1.50. So let's say that's $100 to $300 a week. So we're talking $400 to $1,200 a month for mailers. And that's probably one of the quickest ways to get seller leads if you're using the right list and if you're using a great mailing. And we can help you guys with that stuff as well. So email us. We can drive you toward resources that show you how to get the right list and show you how to get the right mailings. But yeah, so if you're sending 100 mailers out, we've seen mailers with highly targeted lists, and this is a verifiable number. We've seen mailers with highly targeted lists go out and get a 15 to 16% response rate one time. And this was a list of about 300 people. And it got, it was about 40 to 45 calls from that one mailing. And that was the highest that I've ever seen with a mailing. And they ended up doing one deal with that one immediately within 10 days of that mailing going out. And they ended up closing 2 deals with that mailing over time. So out of 40 to 45 calls from that one mailing, it cost them 300 and something bucks. They ended up doing 2 deals. The first one netted them about 9,000 bucks. The next one netted them about 5 to 6 grand. So definitely, guys, don't discount direct mail. And like I said, we can help you with that. We're going to create a training on that here this quarter, hopefully. And as far as other ways to do it, the Craigslist training that's coming out here shortly, Cindy Dumeyer, who's a Carrot member, she has done about 30 deals that have involved Craigslist in the past 6 months. And she gets seller leads off of Craigslist every day. And it's free to post the stuff on Craigslist. So in that training, which I'm pushing to get that out, guys. So I apologize about the delay. But in that training, we're going to walk you through how to crush it on your buyer's list, how to crush it with tenants on Craigslist, and how to get sellers out of Craigslist that most people aren't tapping. Okay, so cool. Yeah, so yeah, get the pay-per-click up and rolling, DeAndre. And as long as you're in a market that's not going to kill you with click costs, because in the Houston market where Guillermo is, he's paying 20 to 24 bucks a click for some of the keywords, and that gets pretty darn expensive when you look at the numbers. So the average numbers that we're seeing as far as conversions on Carrot member sites through pay-per-click, depending on the market, to a lead is 5 to 15%. I know there's a big wide range, but some people have built in more credibility on their websites than others, so it's converting higher. And some are just in a market that for some reason is converting higher, but anywhere between 5 and 15%. So let's pick the middle of 10%. If you're paying 20 bucks a click, and let's say that you're able to close 1 out of 20 leads as a deal, and you need 20 leads to close that deal, and let's say you're netting 5 grand on average a deal, or minimum a deal. So 20 leads times 20 bucks a click is $400. And if you're able to close 1 out of 20 leads to a deal that averages you 5 grand, you're turning 400 bucks in click costs into $5,000. If you're converting lower, so let's say you're converting at 5%. So, let's say it, actually, I apologize. So those numbers are incorrect. So if you get 20 clicks and you're converting at 10%, you're going to convert 2 leads. Okay, so the reason I'm showing these numbers, guys, is because a lot of people underestimate how much pay-per-click is going to cost them before they close a deal, and then they stop, and they don't have a big enough budget set aside to actually really market effectively on Craigslist. So if you have a 10% conversion rate and you're paying 20 bucks a click in a crazy high expensive market, and once again you're closing 1 out of 20 leads as a deal. So let's say you need 20 leads to get a deal. How much is getting 20 leads going to cost you? If it costs 20 bucks a click and you're converting 10%. So to get 20 leads and you're converting 10%, you'll need 200 clicks. Okay? I'm just kind of working these numbers backwards so everyone understands the metrics of paid traffic. So if you're converting at 10%, and you need 20 leads to get 1 deal, you need 200 clicks if the page is converted 10%. So 200 clicks times $20 a click. If you're in a market like Houston, we're talking you're paying $4,000 in click costs before you do a deal that nets you 5 grand. Okay, but let's say you net more than 5 grand. Let's say you're netting 10 grand a deal. Awesome. I would trade $4,000 every single day to make $10,000 back. But this is just the risk threshold that you have to be aware of if you're in a market that is more expensive with click costs. If you're in a market where you're getting it for $4 a click, right, and you're still able to close the same one deal per 20 leads, and maybe you close less, maybe you're only able to close 1 deal per 30 leads. So then your metrics are going to change. You're just going to have to work this out a little bit. But let's say your click costs are $4, and you need those same 200 clicks, to get 20 leads to close one deal. So 4 times 200. Now we're talking $800 to get that one deal that's going to net you $5,000. So just really do the research if you guys are planning on doing pay-per-click, and find out how much on average your click costs are going to be. And we've got this report coming out, guys. It's epic. That is going to show you the top 135 cities across the country by population. We're going to tell you which ones have the biggest opportunity and value for pay-per-click to go into and dominate for motivated seller leads when no one else is in there doing it. The number one city on our list that with our little calculation, looking at competition, looking at population, looking at per capita motivated seller searches online and click costs, the number one city in the country on this report we're coming out with in a couple weeks is 25 cents per click for a We Buy Houses term. That same We Buy Houses phrase in Houston costs you $24. So in the number one city, there's more sellers searching than there are investors advertising on Google to get in front of those sellers. So your opportunity and your click cost is 25 cents per click in that market. So with that market, you can just let that one fly. If you're 25 cents per click, you need 200 clicks to do a deal. You need 200 leads to do the deal. Sorry, you need 20 leads to do a deal. Your page converting to 10%. Those same 200 clicks to get the 20 leads to get the one deal only costs you $50. And I'm going to hold out on telling you guys what the number one city in the country is with that 25 cent per click cost until the report comes out. So suspense. So David, what I'll do, man, I'll send you an email to that call service. And guys and gals, what we'll do as well is we're going to create a resources page somewhere in our training center where you guys can access these resources, like the call center that some of our Investor Carrot members have found that is really great, that can field those calls for you, like the place that does the mailings for the people that I've seen that are the most successful with direct mail, so you can outsource that. We'll create a resource center for that stuff. Yeah, so Kirby's saying he's going to be gone on a cruise. So congratulations. May 1st through 17th. Really wants to be on the Craigslist training. So the Craigslist training is not going to be live. It's all recorded. Okay, so you can actually access it anytime from anywhere. So once that's out, like I said, it's only going to be $100 for current active members. Once it's out, you'll get access to an online membership site just like this. So just like the 3 lead per day one, but it's going to be the Craigslist one. And you can access it anytime. So yep, go on the cruise, man. Don't worry about it. John says, I'm only getting 2 to 3 clicks per day with Google pay-per-click in Tampa following your training. Is it worth it to add Bing Yahoo? Yeah, so John, we're seeing the same thing in Orlando. We're running the pay-per-click for a client in Orlando, and for some reason we're having a really tough time cracking the Florida market. At least those ones. There's some things that we're doing, and we're going to update the pay-per-click training based on some things that we're doing. But there's some things that we're doing that are increasing the amount of clicks we're getting, but then that's kind of a double-edged sword. Increasing clicks, are you actually getting good clicks? So, yeah, I mean, as far as in the Tampa area, there's a few things you can do. You can obviously pay more, so you're higher in there. You can optimize your ads, so do some tests with your ads, John, and see if you can tweak up the ad copy a little bit to get them clicked more. You can split test some ads, and then you can add some more phrases. So if you don't mind getting more broad with your phrases and just things like sell my home, and location target it toward around Tampa, or if you want to branch out to other surrounding cities, you could do that to get more clicks. But we're definitely going to be updating the pay-per-click training here in the next month or two based on what we're finding, because there are some markets where even we're having a tough time getting enough volume of clicks to make it to where it can give you a sustainable amount of business. So awesome, Kirby. Yeah, Kirby's going to be in Portugal and Spain, which is going to be cool. Well, cool, guys. So I'm looking through, and I don't see any other questions. Let's see. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's call, and hopefully everyone's going to start working a little bit less and still getting the same amount of work, if not more, done. So I want to pose that challenge to you guys, okay? I want to pose the challenge to you guys to live your life on your own terms, cast that 8-hour workday model to the side, and really remember the Parkinson's law, okay? Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So if you're mentally going into the day saying I'm working from 9 to 5, then you probably have wasted time in there because you're not as urgent in getting that work done as you would be if you knew that you're only working 9 to 3. Okay, so reduce the amount of time you're working. Try it with a couple days a week at the start, and then maybe try it with cutting an entire day out during the week. And you'll find that if you're insanely intentional and clear on exactly what you really need to do, if you know what that one big thing is that you want to achieve by the end of the year, and work it back, what's the one thing this month that I really need to achieve if I don't do anything else to get that thing this year? And what's the one thing this week that I need to get done in order to push forward that one big thing for the month, for the year? And what's the one big thing today that I need to push forward to achieve that thing this week, which feeds up the chain? And then get everything else off of your plate. Outsource it like David's doing. And or you'll find that a lot of the stuff that you're doing is not important and it does not even need to be done. Okay? But we'll go from there. But anyway, guys, I appreciate the call. I appreciate you hopping on here with me. And thank you for the comments that have been flowing in here, guys. We'll talk soon. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next week.